Hey everyone, my name is Aaliyah and welcome to my channel. So I just want to take a really quick moment to just explain why I've been gone for a little while. So I plan to make this video close to Ehsan's first birthday in September, but that happens to be a really busy time for my family because my husband's an accountant. So pretty much from like August until December, he's really busy. That's his busy season. And usually I would have him help me out with Ehsan on the weekends so that I could film videos, because it pretty much got impossible to film with Ehsan once he started standing, because he would just stand up on the table that I film on and just keep pulling my camera down. So it like pretty much got impossible to film with him in the room. But with my husband being so busy and working weekends, it was just like not possible for me to film videos. And then once things started slowing down in December, I just wanted to take that time to spend time with Parsa and Ehsan. So I decided to take a little break from YouTube. But now things are getting a bit more manageable, so I decided to come back and film this video, which is very, very important to me. I actually tried to film this video a year ago. On the day that Ehsan turned 4 months, he turned 16 months today, so it's been exactly a year. I tried to film it then, but my emotions were just still too raw and it was just too hard for me. And honestly, I have gone back and forth between whether or not I am ready to revisit making this video again, but I do feel like it will be cathartic and healing for me, which I'm definitely ready for, and I feel like I might be able to help somebody else. So this video is going to have two parts because I do want to discuss a bit about my pregnancy experience, because I feel like it kind of ties in with some of the emotions that I felt whenever I gave birth to Ehsan, and also my experience postpartum. So right before I found out I was pregnant with Ehsan, I was having a really, really hard time with my mental health. It was November 2018 and I was so depressed. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to like get out of bed. I would just sit on the couch and cuddle my cat and just like cry and cry for hours and just feel totally helpless. And I feel like saying that it feels ridiculous, but at the time it was just all I felt and all I knew. And no matter what I tried, I just couldn't get better, and I started being really hard on myself and really cynical, and it was almost like I couldn't be around other people. I was just feeling really angry and agitated, and I was really, really depressed. And I remember I was just having a really, really hard day in particular, and I just called Parsa, and it was like the middle of the week and he was at work, and I called him and I just was like, I need help, and I was like, I just can't do this anymore. So yeah, we went to a clinic, and the only reason that I can remember the events of the day is because I made it a point to journal about it, because I knew that it was like a really big breaking point and a milestone for me, and that I was going to need to be able to revisit it and look back on that moment. So anyways, not gonna get too into that right now, but it is kind of important to understand what I went through during my pregnancy. So I did get on medications for depression and anxiety, and once I got on my medication, everything felt like a huge weight was lifted off of my shoulders, and it definitely had a very positive impact, and it worked for me. And it just felt like I was finally seeing myself for the first time in a very long time, and it felt like I was free from a really big burden. That was in December. December and January were amazing months for me after I got on medication. And then in February, we found out that we were pregnant with Ehsan, February 8th. And we were super happy. I was totally shocked. But I was still really, really happy. I kind of was wanting to get pregnant for a while, but I was like kind of scared and putting it off because I was worried, because of my mental health. But then once I got on medication, that kind of went away, and I like really wanted to have a baby. We weren't really trying to have a baby, but we weren't like trying not to have a baby either. So we were both really happy but surprised when we got the results of my pregnancy test. Everything was great. Everything was really, really great until I hit around, I would say 9 to 11 weeks. I got really, really bad nausea. Like literally I couldn't stand. I had to go to the urgent care and get an IV because I was so dehydrated. I couldn't drink water because it would just make me throw up. I tried everything and nothing helped me, and I literally had to just stay in bed all day with a blanket tied around my eyes and my head, and I would just listen to podcasts on my phone, and I was so miserable. It was probably like the worst thing I've ever experienced, and I've had pneumonia. It came nothing close to how I felt whenever that pregnancy nausea hit. And from there on, my mental health just deteriorated. It was really hard because when I first got pregnant, found out I was pregnant, I signed up for a spin class. I was super positive. I wanted to be at my best health. Everything just plummeted whenever I got HG. I couldn't move. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. It was just so awful. Then on top of that, I started feeling really, really depressed, and that made me feel so awful. I felt so guilty for feeling depressed while I was pregnant. I just remember I would talk on the phone with my mom, and I was just in complete misery, and I don't even remember, like I remember feeling it, but I was just, when I look back on it, I'm like, how was that me? Like, it was the darkest feeling I had felt since I was a teenager, and it was so crippling and so awful, and I felt like a terrible person. I felt like I wasn't grateful for my baby. I felt like this was something that I would have never expected. I always wanted kids, so to experience something so negative in the happiest moment of my life was so confusing and hurtful and painful, and I couldn't even talk to anybody about it because I feel ashamed of how I felt. So then around, I would say 13 weeks or so, I was still having the nausea, but it got a little bit better, and I was working as a phlebotomist, and I would literally wake up in the morning, throw my guts up, get ready for work, go to work, and just try so hard not to throw up, like every single day. Like it was, when I look back, I'm like, how did I do that? Because honestly, like it was treacherous. But my mental health was a bit better. I guess I was just like so distracted, just like staying busy working and whatever. And it did help that I wasn't as nauseous, or I feel like maybe I kind of got used to the nausea. But I do remember like some days I would come home and like make dinner for myself, and then I would just like throw everything up, and then like I would just like call Parsa and just like cry and be like, you have to come home, because I would really feel like I was gonna like suffocate. I would throw up so hard and so bad that I felt like I was gonna pass out. Sometimes I would just like literally be on the floor just like crying because I couldn't catch my breath. That was like really scary, to be like pregnant and alone and be like throwing up and not be able to breathe and like not be able to catch my breath. It was like really scary. At that time, like I think things were just, I was going through the motions and just trying to just get through it, and I kept hearing that, you know, the second trimester was easier, and that all of these things were just like, it's just because of the first trimester, all the hormones and everything. So I just said, okay, you know what, I'll just like bear through it and try not to like focus too much on the bad and negative emotions that I was having. We went for Esson's 20-week anatomy scan, and it was really scary. They told us that there were parts of his brain that weren't developing properly, and it was like, it was really scary for me because for some reason I just kept feeling that, you know, when I would think about the anatomy scan, I just kept thinking there's gonna be something wrong with his brain. There's gonna be something wrong with his brain. And I think that I was so afraid because when I went to one of my visits and I spoke with the OB about, you know, I was like, I'm really depressed. You know, she told me to definitely stay on my medication because I was like worried about being able to stay on my medication while being pregnant. She told me to definitely stay on my medication because I was exhibiting signs of antidepressant, which is pretty much like, you know, everybody hears about postpartum depression, the depression you get after you have your baby, but there's also like a specific kind of depression that you get while you're pregnant, and I had never heard of that before. So I was just really, really surprised, and it was really hard for me because I had just gotten to a point where I felt like my mental health was really, really good once I got on my medication, and then everything was just spiraling down, and I was going through all the emotions of pregnancy symptoms, and on top of everything else, I was dealing with a major bout of depression and didn't understand it. It was even scarier to me because she told me that people who have depression while they're pregnant, they have a higher rate for fetal death and it causing issues with your baby. So I remember just every day I was so upset with myself, and I kept thinking like I was gonna ruin my baby, and there was nothing I could do. I was trying so hard. And so I just kept thinking, like, what if my depression ends up affecting his brain in some way? And I know a lot of people are like worried about the development of the heart and like whatever, but literally I wasn't worried about his heart. I wasn't worried about any of his organs. I was worried about his brain. And I guess it's because I was like, you know, depression is such a thing that affects your mind that it might affect the development of his mind. So when we went for the anatomy scan and they, you know, were looking at the heart and everything, I was like, okay. As soon as they went to his brain, I just started getting like this really panicked feeling, and I was just waiting and waiting for them to say something. So when they finally like did say something that like they saw something wrong with his brain, like I just felt so overwhelmed with guilt. Like I just felt like my depression was something that I dealt with for so long in my life, and then in this very moment, like, it's gonna take this from me too. I couldn't separate myself from my depression. I felt like it was my fault. So they told us when we were there that they were gonna wait 4 weeks and we were gonna come back for another scan. They said that there might be a chance that, you know, he was just delayed in development and that it might, you know, develop in that 4 weeks. We didn't know that he was a boy at the time. So I decided, okay, I want to have a really special gender reveal party. I just felt like if I was gonna get horrific news and find out that like my baby might not make it or anything else, I would want to celebrate him the best that I could. So I kept myself busy for those 4 weeks, just planning, getting everything together for the gender reveal. And luckily during that time, my HG got a little bit easier to manage, and my depression was a lot easier to manage at that time too. So when we went for his 24-week appointment and did the second scan, and we found out that everything was okay, it was like such a huge relief. But at the same time, the rest of my pregnancy, I did worry about it. I still had anxiety about it. I didn't really talk about it, but in the back of my mind, I was just like, what if they're wrong? What if they didn't see? You know, even though we were at Texas Children's and we saw a doctor that was very, very experienced, but still it just felt like when you hear something that's that scary, like it's hard to shake it out of your head. So I would say like for the rest of my pregnancy, I pretty much just had it on my mind. And then my depression got really bad again. And I would just lay in the bed for hours and hours, and then I kept thinking, this is not good for me, this is not good for the baby, I need to get up and move, I need to eat, I need to take care of myself. But it was like just so hard to do. It didn't help that it was also like the middle of summer, so it was like unbearably hot. But it was like literally a blur. Like I don't even remember my pregnancy. And I know a lot of people say like, oh, I don't remember being pregnant, but like I literally don't remember, aside from like a handful of like events that happened. I don't remember a lot of it. I didn't really get that whole like nesting thing that people go through. I kind of did like maybe 2 weeks before he was born, but other than that, I just really just stayed in bed and felt miserable for the way that I felt guilty about it. So I think like basically my whole pregnancy, I just kind of try to go through the motions, go to my appointments, um, sleep off the pain, sleep off the discomfort, sleep away the bad feelings. I was going to therapy at the time. I didn't really feel like my therapist connected or resonated with me, but like I said, I was just trying to go through the motions. So I was like, I have to do this. This is just like due diligence. I was worried that if I didn't take care of my mental health, that it would affect Esson, but I also didn't have the energy to make any more effort than I was. So I kind of just stuck with that therapist. And eventually I told her, you know, I just don't feel like the medication's working for me, and I've stopped taking it because it's just not doing anything. You know, she told me to up my dose. She said that sometimes because the blood volume increases while you're pregnant, the lower dose might not work. So we upped my dose. And I don't really remember if that made a difference. Because like I said, like there's so much of my pregnancy, like I just don't remember. I was really just trying to get through it. I had such bad rib pain. I couldn't sleep. I still couldn't really eat. I was still throwing up at that point. And it was hot. I was miserable. So like I said, I had really bad rib pain. It was like this weird numb but like tingly feeling, kind of like when your foot falls asleep, but in my rib. And it was in my right rib, and it was there for a very long time. And finally I told my care provider about it, and I said, you know, I have this pain in my rib, and I feel like my baby is stuck there, and I feel like he hasn't moved head down. So at that point I was 34 weeks whenever I told her that I was having the rib pain. I didn't feel like he was moving. And where I was going to Texas Children's, and they have midwives there. So that's who my care provider was. It was the group of midwives at the Texas Children's Hospital. And they did not use ultrasound machines for your visits. So at that point she said, you know, let's go ahead and do an ultrasound. And when we did the ultrasound, we saw that he was laying sideways. And she told me, you know, it's okay if he's not head down yet. We don't really worry about that until they're around like 36 weeks. But you have a lot of amniotic fluid still, so go ahead and like do these exercises, start getting massages, and go to a chiropractor to hopefully encourage him to flip. And then she told me, when you come back at 36 weeks, we're going to do another ultrasound. If he's not head down, then we're going to flip him manually. And she pretty much told me to make sure that my husband was with me for that visit. So I was like, okay, this is like a big deal and whatever. So I was very proactive in the 2 weeks. I went to the chiropractor, and I was getting massages, and I was doing the exercises that she told me to do at home. And I felt a bit more comfortable, obviously, because I was getting massages, and like the chiropractor helped me to like loosen a lot of my stiffness. But I still just felt like he was not head down. Like I didn't feel like, I felt him only kicking in the same 2 spots. And I never felt movement anywhere else. And for all of the ultrasounds that we had gotten for him, he was always laying in the same position. So I just felt like he was staying in that position, and he wasn't really moving that much from the get-go. Like he just had that preferred position, and then eventually he just got to a point where he just stayed in it predominantly. So we went for my 36-week appointment, and I saw a different midwife because that's how their system worked. You didn't see the same midwife, you just saw the one that was on call, the one that was there. And you know, she felt my belly, she did a map of my belly, and she was like, yeah, he's head down. And I was just like kind of surprised. I was like, I was like, what? Like, I feel like he is in the same position that I've always felt him in. I was like, are you sure? She was like, yeah, 100%, I'm sure. I feel his belly right here. And she showed me, she was like, feel this. And she, showed me where his head was, and she was 100% confident. She was just like so sure. And I was like, okay, like, she has experience that I don't, and I trusted her. So I went home. She said, go ahead and still, go for your massages and whatever. It'll help you to get ready for labor, and keep going to the chiropractor to help you get ready for labor. So I said, okay, awesome. So I had my appointments set up to where I was going every Thursday, and I would try to schedule all my appointments to be for the same day so that I wouldn't have to be like going out every single day, because it was very hard for me to do that because of my nausea and just like pure exhaustion. So I had a chiropractor appointment, and then after that I had my 37-week checkup. And as I was on the way to the chiropractor, a flash flood hit. And thank God my car did not get flooded. I was able to get to a dry spot, but there was no way. I was blocked in from all sides. I tried to drive out of it, and eventually I just decided it wasn't worth the risk of almost getting my car flooded or worse. So I just found a safe spot, and I kind of just chilled there. I called to cancel and reschedule my appointments. I was on the phone with the midwife's office, and I remember them asking me if I wanted to just go ahead and reschedule for the following Thursday, so an entire week, or if I wanted to do a Tuesday. And I remember for a moment I almost said, I wanted to keep my appointments on Thursdays, because Thursdays was like gestationally I would like have fully completed the week. And so I kind of just wanted to have my appointments like follow up with like my actual gestational weeks, if that makes any sense. But when they told me that they had an appointment for Tuesday, I said, you know what, I really don't want to go a whole week of not getting like anything checked up and whatever. So I told them to go ahead and schedule for Tuesday. And I didn't know it at the time, but that decision saved my baby's life.